not just financial. They ought to be taking suo motu, notices. Why is this, why are we leaving it, for the judiciary to take suo motu? It is because we are failing in this. And I'm not blaming the Auditor General of Pakistan. They're doing a great job in whatever they are doing. But clearly we got to just, step up, and we step up the accountability process. And I think while we were there 3 days, 4 days ago with the AGP, Prime Minister, myself and the leader of the opposition, frankly, my agenda was that we must now bring in not only program audits, ongoing audits, and, and bring in better quality people over there, but also we must have, this accountability of whatever the executive is doing. And frankly, today, the Auditor General should have taken notice of what the hell is going on in sugar, rental powers, or whatever else is being raised by the media. Then we look at, the governance issues in the public sector companies. I mean, where is the accountability? Where is the management? I mean, where is the governance? Are they being, run, to the international standards? I have to say, definitely not. I mean, if you look at, the public sector, some of the large ones, PEPCO, PIA, Railways, Pakistan Steel. I mean, if you add the losses, I mean, the losses are in excess of 200 billion rupees. Yes, how much is the, public sector development, programs of all the provinces? 200 billion rupees. If they could only break even, I could give another 200 billion rupees to the provinces to spend. And if they could just make some profits, that impact would be probably 2.5–3% of GDP. So we got to really look at ourselves and say, is this a governance fail or is this just a political process? And my sense is it's a governance fail. So what are we doing about it? I think we cannot just, be ostriches, burying our, head in the sand. So I think this government, with the help of intellectuals, and this is again something which we have to understand, there is no monopoly over wisdom. There are people who are bright, who are wise, and we should not look at their political affiliations. So the EAC which we have, the Economic Advisory Council, it's unfortunate that we have to have this kind of vehicle. Otherwise, in the Constitution, the forefathers said that this job of planning and frankly debating the issues and then, creating a roadmap was left to the Planning Commission of Pakistan. Today, the Planning Commission of Pakistan is no more than just a project approving and, implementing authority. But, that's a fact. And we are working towards now making, that as a kind of think tank for the government. But meanwhile, we have this EAC, Economic Advisory Council, and the likes of Dr. Hafiz Pasha, Ijaz Nabi, and Dr. Ishrat Hussain, Mr. Shoaib Sultan. All those people who basically are one of the best in their own fields were collected, industrialists, agriculturists. Mr. Jahangir Tareen, who obviously belong to the opposition, but he's a great agriculturist. All those people have been collected and said, okay, let's sit down and just and think about a strategy. They all sat down, and Mr. Asad Umar was involved, Mr. Razak Daud was involved, Ali Habib, Tariq Sehgal, and there are many, many other people who were basically co-opted and involved. And we created a 9-point agenda. And we said, let's move on. So the first job was to stabilize the economy. As I told you, in October, we're looking at default. So the first was stabilization of the economy. We took a courageous step, and which was not a very popular step, that we went to the IMF, we got money from there. And I'm not going to go into, what has happened since, but I think as we stand over here, I think we have achieved some kind of stabilization. We are not yet there. Inflation is still 11%. The prices are still, pretty wobbly. We have a problem on growth. The growth is anemic. It's at 2%. And frankly speaking, if we need to have economic prosperity here, we need to have growth rates of 6% plus or 7% plus. But I think in some ways it clearly is stabilizing. We don't have a panic. Economy's currency is stable. Our reserves are growing. They were $6.6 billion in October, November. Today they've crossed $13 billion. Almost 3.5 months of imports. So we are not teetering on the brink. But clearly we are certainly not, floating as well. So stabilization is there. But here there are two key elements I have to mention. We cannot go on the way we are going on, borrowing and spending. Borrowing and spending. And I think this is our history for the last 62 years. Never in our history have we gone beyond 12.6% tax to GDP. I think, one of my favorite personalities, Abdullah Yusuf Sahab baithe hain yahan, and he introduced a process, a reform process of universal self-assessment. And then that means the harassment element. People thought that, the tax people, they harass, everybody. So he removed that. And we are following the same thing. But then obviously there has to be some kind of audit. Because even, I would say, फरिश्ते भी अगर उनका ऑडिट नहीं होगा तो वो भी मेरे ख्याल में थोड़ा बिदक जाएंगे. So I guess, we need to have, so we said, okay, how to remove this? And that's where ICAP came, and we said, we'll outsource this audit. Let, people not think, these FBR guys, they will just do our audit. So regular people who file their self-assessments, the audit is going to be outsourced, maybe it will be 2.5%, 3%. So that is fine. But now I think it's the responsibility of the people of this country to come forward and say, we need to pay taxes. I think Asad raised a very, very important point. What comes first, representation or taxation? And I think the world is saying taxation comes first. You first pay your bills and then just go and just, and say that what is the government not delivering us? There is taxation before representation. And I think we must all stand up and be counted on this. We on our part will make sure we have a more collaborative approach, harassment free. We're trying and will try. But the people must also stand up. We are also going to remove all the policy anomalies, which means everybody who will have income will have to pay taxes. And you have heard me, this time in budget, we brought two areas. We brought, we just taxed the real estate gains. Now it is in the mode of CVT, and it's regressive. I understand. But you should understand why that happened. Because the provinces could not agree how to share this. So till the NFC award, it is in the CVT mode. And as we agree on the NFC, it will be a preferential, kind of tax. It will be tax on the capital gains arising from real estate. This was one area which was not being taxed. The second is, of course, GST on services in the provinces, and we have brought 4 organized areas, and we'll do more next year. But there are still 2 more to go. And those 2 will also come under the tax net. I can assure you, if I am still the finance minister of this country. So the point is, that gives equity. Everybody knows that everybody who has 200,000 rupees income will have to pay taxes. And I think unless you don't do that, there are certain people who will just say, why me? But the main issue is that we must increase our tax to GDP ratio. If Sri Lanka can be 17 to 18%, India around 18%, China 22%, and Turkey 27%, why are we 9%? Can we support, a growth of 6 to 7% with a 9% tax to GDP? Yes, we will grow at 6 to 7%, and we have been growing at 6 to 7% because by just getting money from outside.